30 chilling deaths people directly caused, according to Reddit. Number 30. So, I was at home watching my kids of 15 months and 3 months, exhausted and sleep deprived. I lay them down for a nap, the newborn swaddled. I proceed to take a nap while I can. Not sure how much time passed when the baby started crying, but I ignored it and thought to myself, they'll be fine, they'll stop in a minute. Went back to sleep. I wake up a little later, a total of 2 or so hours have passed during the nap time. No kids crying or anything, so fix myself a sandwich for lunch and sit to eat. After finishing, I go to check on them, and my heart hits the floor. The newborn is unresponsive, slightly twitching, with mucus coming out of their nose. I pick them up and unwrap their blanket, and they're super sweaty, barely breathing, and slightly twitching in my arms. I call 911, freaking out while hitting the baby's back while holding them by their chest on one hand to clear their airway. Tons of mucus comes out of the nose and mouth. Police squad get there, take them to the hospital as I follow with my other child. When we get there, they try to work on the baby, but their temperature was extremely high and they were going into shock. Was life flighted to a children's hospital where they did not survive. Doctors said it was likely meningitis or some extreme viral infection that caused the sudden infant death syndrome event. Well, personally, I feel like it's my fault because I was too lazy to get up and check when they cried during the nap. I will never, ever forgive myself. This is the first time I have told anyone, because even talking about it makes me hate myself, so I understand the hate I'll get for this. Well, as we've said plenty of times in the past on these lists, being a parent is really just keeping a child alive. You know, when they're young, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And when they grow a little older, they're almost actively trying to kill themselves. Not your fault. You may notice that I'm starting at 33 when I said 30. And the reason being is because a few of them above have been deleted. So I've just gone ahead and subtracted those. But I'll be reading them, as normal from here on out. Number 32. I was the first car at a red light with a gray car to my right in the right lane. I picked up a habit to look both ways when a light turns green, and it never proved worth it until now. So, my light turns green, and before I go, I check left and right, as usual. This time, I see a red truck speeding at least 100 miles per hour, trying to make this red light. Well, 2 whole seconds pass and I'm still waiting, but the gray car to my right didn't see the truck speeding, so he went along. Huge collision. The gray car that was to my right is now rolled up, hitting 2 other cars in the other lanes, and the red truck that sped through hardly had a front anymore. This happened no more than 5 meters away from me, and I think I was in such shock that I proceeded on my way without much consideration of checking up on them or anything, which would be one of my greatest regrets. I always wonder what happened if I had checked left or right. If I hadn't checked left or right before going, probably wouldn't be typing this, to be honest. Also, that gray car wouldn't have been T-boned and flipped, so I have got a bit of survivor's guilt, I guess, about that. I wish there was a way to reach out and see what happened to that gray car. I hope she or he and all the passengers are all right. I often use this as a cautionary tale about always checking before going, even if your light is green. Green doesn't mean go, it means proceed if safe. Ain't that the truth? This particular entry did not include someone directly causing a death, so he should be, not feeling so terrible. What I thought this was going to center on was the fact that he kind of just drove away right after an accident happened, as opposed to jumping out, seeing what's going on, and probably immediately calling the authorities. Because you never know. Sometimes a driver will hit somebody and they'll be fine, but the person they hit will not be fine. And if the person who hit the people just drives away and nobody calls anybody, those are precious moments that could contribute to the person's life. You know what I mean? Like, say nobody calls the police, and they could have made it if somebody called the ambulance right there and got them the medical attention they needed. So let that be something that you try to do in the future. I know we all busy. I know we all got our lives. We got shit to do. You know what I'm talking about? But if you see some shit go down and you can be, pivotal in making sure that people get the medical attention that they need in a timely fashion, please try to facilitate that as expeditiously as possible. Number 31. I used to work a strange overnight schedule. 10-hour shifts Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I try and keep awake the same hours on my days off, especially on Thursdays. This was a pretty rural area. There wasn't much open at those hours except a gas station that had a tiny cafe area. I didn't want to keep people in the house awake, so I spent a lot of my time at that gas station. I'd usually read or talk with the cashier on duty. I think she felt a little safer having someone else there too. One night, a man comes in with a little boy and asks if they can use the bathroom. It's something like 3 a.m. The kid looked sick or uncomfortable. To me, it looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. After they're in the bathroom, the cashier and I look at each other. She thinks there's something off about this too. I hope that kid hasn't been kidnapped, motherfucker. I went outside to get a description of the vehicle. After they leave, we call the police. The local police passed it along to the county sheriff's department, and a local officer came to the gas station. He asked a couple of questions, and we listened to his radio to hear what was happening. A county officer spots the truck and pulls it over. After the officer gets out of the car, the truck backs into it and takes off. The police pursue him. We didn't get a lot of details after that. He crashed or abandoned the truck. The truck was on fire and loose rounds of ammunition was going off in the truck. I believe the boy was somewhere safe because I didn't hear any more about him. The guy tried to swim across a small but deceptively treacherous river and drowned. That was close to 20 years ago, if I remember correctly. He was the boy's dad, but did not have custody. What a sad story. He was recently released from prison, and the truck was stolen. I mean, you saved the kid in a way, but this is, whoa, man. It doesn't get any better than real life. This is some movie shit. You know what I'm talking about? Reality stranger than fiction, boy. That's his pappy, who just got out of jail. Doesn't have custody though. Stole it. Somebody in the gas station spotted the kid and it doesn't look right. Oh boy. Number 30. I'm at least partially responsible for 3 deaths. So, I'm a weather forecaster. A few years ago, I was forecasting for Afghanistan. Now, we were doing those forecasts from base in the States, which means we had to coordinate our forecasts with someone who was deployed to Afghanistan. Sometimes the downrange forecaster was really experienced. Other times they weren't. It was a mixed bag. Anyway, I had been forecasting for this region for at least 2 years. At the time of this incident, I was familiar with it, and I was actually in a supervisory capacity, simply overseeing all the forecasts going out into my zone. Well, one day I was talking with one of my forecasters about the potential of a large hail, and I'd like him to put that in his forecast. Now, that's a big thing to put in the forecast because of how operationally significant it is. Aircraft must be put in hangars, missions are canceled, assets must be protected, etc. So when it came time to discuss this with the downrange forecaster, he was absolutely against it. He didn't want to brief to the commander because, again, missions have to be canceled based on what you think will happen. If you're wrong, you've set back a lot of people and wasted a lot of time. So the deployed forecaster tries to argue against it, but his reasoning really just boiled down to, I don't want to brief that. So when I wasn't looking, he essentially just pulled rank on my junior forecaster and forced him to take it out of the forecast. And so it went out to the base with no hail in it, only hinting at some vicinity thunderstorms. Well, when I noticed, I was pissed, but I said, screw it, we'll let him be wrong. Oh boy, we'll let him be wrong. This was the first time I'd ever wanted to put large hail in a forecast. Maybe we were over forecasting it. Nope. Basically right on schedule, a huge thunderstorm popped up and dumped large hail on the base. It did a few million in damage to aircraft, injured a helo pilot who were pre-fighting his bird, and killed 3 Afghan National Army soldiers who left on a patrol and couldn't find cover. They wound up beaten to death by hail. That has always bugged me. They didn't need to die. We knew the potential was there, and I basically let an incorrect forecast go out that got them killed. Now here's the bottom line. Somebody else made the choice to try and get this pulled. So if anybody, were to take the blame for this, it would be that person. But odds are this shit probably don't faze this motherfucker at all. He's not losing any sleep, you know what I mean, over these people that died because of him not wanting to put that in the forecast. And that's kind of sad, but I guess that's just the way life goes. As we proceed on the list of 30 chilling deaths people directly cause, we reach number 29. I was skiing with my friends on a school trip. Give me 1 second. I was skiing with my friends on a school trip. As we went to sit on the chairlift, our skis locked. The way that happened meant that one of my friends ended up sitting on top of the other. The lift operator didn't stop the lift, and we couldn't get off, and by the time we realized what was happening, it was my job to pull the ski bar down, but I couldn't due to the positioning of the people in the lift. Long story short, my friend ended up slipping, and I was holding on to her as she dangled off the lift. I was wearing thick skiing gloves, so my grip on her was loose. She was screaming so much that she stopped for a second, looked me in the eye, and said, "Please don't let go." And then my grip gave in, and she fell about 4 stories into some rocks near a river. We were shouting at the lift operator, but he was way too slow to react. The girl died from internal bleeding and shock, as legs twisted in a fucked up way when she landed. She went into cardiac arrest and died. I was questioned profusely by the police and was treated as a suspect. I was bullied endlessly, both online and in real life. And in the end, I just blamed myself. And I still do to this day. This really in a nutshell version, but out of respect to the people involved, I won't give any details since it was 4 to 5 years ago. That sucks. You know what I mean? That sucks. Imagine trying to save somebody's life. I've been in this position, and I haven't technically or figuratively saved somebody's life. I've literally saved someone's life, and then having it bite you in the ass, having that specific person bite you in the ass, having their family and friends and, people, aspects of their life come to bite you in the ass. Don't be a hero, guys. Sounds like terrible advice, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm almost conflicting with what I told you earlier. Jump out of your car and see if everyone's fine and call the police and all this shit. Sometimes shit that you can't even imagine can bite you in the ass. Number 28, I was driving a semi a small car pulled up in front of me and slammed on their brakes, and I couldn't stop in time, and my truck wound up on top of their car, and I was the only survivor of the vehicles involved. Now, this is fantastic as an entry. Look how short it is. And I feel terrible for the person it happened with, but it's just like, there it is. That's what happened. Somebody get in front of a truck and then pile on the brakes, you know? The worst part is that some of these lessons are the last lessons that people will ever learn. And dead men learn no lessons. Number 27. My father died of an asthma attack the next day when we went on the Tiger Sky Tower ride in Singapore. It was labeled not safe for asthmatics, and I was the only one to read that, but I didn't warn my dad because I was 12 and I really wanted to go on that ride. Oh, you were 12, I guess, but jeez, how old is 12? Next day, he got an asthma attack in the morning. Next day, he got an asthma attack in the morning, and of course, he forgot his drugs to take on holiday. So, my mom had to go to the pharmacy, which they denied the prescription for because it wasn't issued in Singapore. Mom came back, wanted to take him to the hospital, but my dad didn't like hospitals and was feeling a bit better, so he said no. Oh boy. Later, he fell unconscious, and we rushed him to the hospital for a nebulizer treatment, but they couldn't save him. Life sucks, guys. And I think that's going to be this whole list. But, I mean, we're the type of morbid people where I guess we're pretty interested in personals accounts. Personals. Well, yeah, we want to see how, this affects people on a personal level. Number 26. When I was 12, one of my guy friends my age had a crush on me and would do anything to get my attention and praise. Being young and stupid without a shred of empathy, I would make him do a lot of dumb stuff, usually silly kid stuff like licking something dirty or putting something stupid on social media. One time I pressured him into playing chicken at the train tracks with our friends. You can guess what happened next. I don't remember if it was because he mistimed it or got stuck or something else. I remember that's all I could think about afterwards when I was in shock. Just that one insignificant, stupid little detail. Did he get stuck? Did he not jump in time? I think it was my way of trying to deal with it. I'll never forgive myself for that, ever. Trust me, these little girls don't care. These little girls are monsters. She says she was 12 years old. But guys, how old is 12? I keep asking that question because we've had a 12-year-old one before this. But when I say that, I mean how old is 12? Naturally, everybody has a different life. Some people are more privileged. Some people have less responsibilities. Some people are allowed a little bit more time without having to mature. But doesn't mean that 12 years old isn't old enough for this kind of bullshit to not slide. There are much younger people who have been in life or death scenarios, who have conducted themselves accordingly, who have conducted themselves in a way of maturity. Like, if you wouldn't do it yourself, you shouldn't be baiting someone into doing it because they're willing to do that for you. And it's happening as we speak. That's why it burdens and kind of breaks my heart and burdens the soul, is that I know that there are some girls who have the attention of some guys that are never going to make it with them, but they allow the guys to stay under the impression that they have the potential to make it with them, just to get them to do whatever the hell they want. And it's the way that the world works in a certain capacity, but you're taking it to a point where these guys are taking their own life. What's up? Endangering their own life? What's up? Number 25. Back in the mid-2000s, I was going through a divorce. My whole emotional state was in chaos. I pretty much was a functioning alcoholic. Well, I was very, very angry all the time. So I went to a gas station to get smokes after a particularly bad fight with my wife. We were selling the house that I had built. And I was so angry, so hurt. As I was pulling out of the gas station, some guy came rocketing out of the car wash area and cut me off. Being in the state of mind I was in, I felt loose. I let loose a spew of profanity at him, really nasty stuff. He must have been having a bad day because before I knew it, he was in park and around the front end of his car coming at me with his hands up. I boxed golden gloves in my youth. And hands up is a universal sign. I was in my car with the window down and very vulnerable. His front end was blocking mine and I was boxed in. So I jumped out of my car and stepped out of the door's way. And the dude was literally 5 feet from me from coming at me with a vengeance. Hands up and ready. So I threw a straight right at him. I don't remember trying to throw it hard. I just did it, kind of like a batter with 2 strikes, trying to protect the plate. It worked. I hit him right on the point of the chin. His eyes rolled up, and immediately, and he started going down. He went down like this, only sideways, and hit the side of his head on the curb. It was the first part of him to touch the ground, and it killed him. Brain bled. He lasted a week, I think. He had other medical issues as well that exacerbated it. His wife and I talked a lot at the hospital. She never blamed me, which I am very thankful for, because I'm sure I sure blamed myself for many, many years. She was probably just, glad to be done with this fucking easily angered man. Turned into a non-functioning alcoholic, was almost homeless. My whole body hurts thinking about this. I still feel awful, still cry it out sometimes. I used to have nightmares about his 2 daughters. They were teenagers, they needed their daddy, and my actions took that from them. I'm not saying this guy's a hero or anything. Maybe he was doing stuff to those. No, we don't know anything about this guy's life. We can't just establish slander and build a narrative based on a dude that we don't know. But when you're the type of dude that's jumping out of your car to throw hands with some nigga you don't know just because he yelling some words at you, are you a female? You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I can't say that I appreciate a lot of people is like, I understand, like, if in your mind to you respect means that everybody needs to talk to you a certain way, you know what I mean? Good for you. But always remember that we're living in a world where people are going to say and do things behind your back and to your face that are pretty much specifically geared to getting a rise out of you. And if they can pull your strings with just words, then you're not that great, okay? So if to you respect means everybody need to talk to you a certain way, respect yourself enough to not be so emotionally available for manipulation by people that don't know you. Because the last thing that I'm ever going to do is allow somebody that don't really know me to provoke me emotionally in any capacity. You know what I mean? I've been through more gangster shit. I've been through more serious shit. And I'm not going to let half of this crap faze me. I'm going to be rolling from now into the damn grave before I let anybody other than a hoe that I'm really crazy about, you know what I mean? That I'm like pretty much a ride or die for, going to just be like, oh, well, okay, oh, you suck. And I'll be like, oh, me? It's time for me to get out of my vehicle. Like, nigga, you know how many people's jaw accidentally bust off, like, because it was that time. You know what I'm talking about? We're all just animals at the end of the day. Fight or flight isn't a joke. This dude defended himself and he feels terrible and he's crying about it. Sure, you didn't mean to kill him, but this nigga shouldn't have been jumping out of his car. He should have thought about his family. What happened to his family? Number 24. So I'm a mental health worker who is recently, maybe that's a cautionary tale for you guys. Think about shit. Don't be getting into crap with people you don't know. This nigga could have had a gun. You know what I mean? When you're jumping out of your car to get physical with somebody, you don't know who this person is. You don't know how unstable they are. You don't know how crazy they are. They could be an off-duty cop. They could bust your ass in the freaking mouth and they'd be untouchable. You know what I'm talking about? Just take that gun out and plap, baby. You would be done. And your family ain't gonna see no money. You know what I'm talking about? Family ain't gonna see no justice. This cop gonna be like, he came right at me. You know what I mean? I'm a cop. This is a reliable testimony. Just kidding, police officers. I know you're not all crazy. But don't you, if there's any police officers listening to this, don't you wish a nigga would just bust out of his car and come at you with some bullshit? You know what I mean? Because, hey, some of us are looking for a reason to let off that steam. It's like we're just like a carbonated bottle of soda, just shook up our whole life, and we just looking for that outlet. Don't make random people your outlet. Sorry about going off on one. Number 24. So I'm a mental health worker who has recently had a patient kill themselves. That sucks. They sadly aren't my first and won't be my last. I followed protocol. Sorry. Jeez, every time I do this, my nose just gets so weird. I followed protocol and didn't do anything medically wrong, but will always feel personally responsible for them. There were signs I missed it, lies I believed, and things I do differently in hindsight. Some of the families put cases against the hospital, but I've been cleared of any wrongdoing. Unfortunately, when you have the riskiest cases, then you can't win all the time. That doesn't stop me feeling incredibly sad when it happens, and imagine their family grieving for a lost son, brother, father. I will always remember their names and have planted a tree in each of their honor. I strive to become a better nurse each time. Somebody says, bless you for all your work. Bless you indeed. I think the saddest thing about these are going to be the guilt that follows these people, unfortunately. Here are some more deleted ones, jeez. Oh boy. Some of these sound awful based on context clues, but we'll never know what they were specifically. Number 21. My ex asked for money from Thanksgiving dinner so she could try and smooth things over with her father. Oh my God, give me a second. Throat is killing me, which is strange. Forgive me. My ex asked me for money for Thanksgiving dinner so she could try and smooth things over with her father. Her life had fallen apart in a horrible divorce between her parents in her senior year of high school. All her college fund was wasted in legal fees. All her prospects and privileges were ripped out from underneath her. She was already a divorcee, and her mother disowning her for not lying about her side of the story in court. She moved away with her dad, started getting into Oxy. Oh, that's bad. Thanksgiving rolls around. Rolls. She calls me and asks for money. Seems fine. I wanted a receipt. 6 hours later, she overdosed on heroin. There was no funeral, barely a blurb in the paper. She was just erased. It kills me to think about how she'd used to be a smart and ready for the world, and how it all crushed her. Fuck drugs, fuck parents who can't see what they're doing wrong. Fuck me for trusting her. I knew she was an addict and she's gone now. This shit ain't your fault, homie, but that sucks, you know, knowing that you funded the habit that took their life. That's nuts. Somebody responds, she's not erased. You remembered her. Man. Make a freaking Facebook meme, inspirational cuck. Number 19. When I was 15, on my way home from school, a man stepped out of his car and grabbed my arm, and I had to go with him. I tugged away, and we sort of grappled in the street for a moment. Until I shoved him, he lost balance, he fell and hit his head on the pavement and died from his head injury in the hospital. Yes. Feel bad all you want, girl. You know what I'm talking about? But you got him. Got him. Well, that's what you get when you try to take people against your own will, you know? It's probably better than what was going to happen to you, girl. If you were lucky, he'd have took you, fucked you, and killed you. You know what I'm talking about? Is that too brutal? Is that too blunt? Guys, shut the hell up. This isn't some kind of ABC Kids special on television. You're watching a list where people killed other people, you know, by their direct action. So let me talk about this real quick. This girl probably saved herself because if she was lucky, she'd be took, fucked, and killed. But if she wasn't lucky, she would have been taken, bound, and made to live the life of like a sexual slave for however long until he was done with her. So again, the torment, he kind of got off, you know what I mean? If we were to balance those two things, like you just dying or you being abused and then dying, like one of those is better than the other. Fuck that asshole. Number 18. 2 years ago, my sister was working at a dealership. Her husband and I were... Okay. Thank you for the alarm. Okay. Oh my God, my nose. 2 years ago, my sister was working at a dealership. Her husband and I were spending the day together until it was time to pick up his sister from work. He had been drinking tall boys all day. Uh-oh. So when it came time to get his gal, I took the keys and said, I'm driving. He was mad enough that he refused to go with me. When I came back with my sister, he was nowhere to be found, but it was common for him to go on walks to calm himself down, and we didn't think much of it. 8 a.m. the next morning, state police were banging on the door. They told us he was struck and killed by a train while he was sleeping on the tracks. A lot of ideas swirling around in the midst of this. Yes, getting drunk is a crazy thing. It takes away your ability to think. It takes away your cognizance here. But I don't think that he was drunk enough to have forgotten what train tracks are and how they work. Oftentimes in real life, you deal with two types of people, and I give women a bad rap, and it's because a lot of them that I've encountered are unfortunately the type that put themselves in one of these two categories. In life, you deal with two types of people. The type of person that's emotional. When train tracks exist in life, figuratively, and a train is coming, if they're on the tracks, they run away from the train down the tracks. That's emotion. All you're thinking about is getting away from the train. Nothing else matters. The other category is logic. And logic dictates that if you're on the track and a train is coming, you step off the track. You step to the left, you step to the right. As long as you don't keep traveling down the tracks that the train is on itself, you are fine. This is logic, you know? I don't believe that this dude just forgot what train tracks were and how they worked, you know? I think of all the places that you could just end up asleep because you're drunk, train tracks aren't one of them. I think he knew what he was doing, and I think the drinking, and maybe, other things in his life may have contributed to him just not wanting to go on. And that sucks. It's almost kind of embarrassing in a way, you know what I mean? You're too drunk to go pick up your sister, so, Wait, his sister, yeah. Well, these things happen. People are saying, seriously, how drunk do you have to be to fall asleep on train tracks? Somebody else said suicidal. That's what I feel too. This just sitting and thinking about it for a little bit. I think that, again, guys, sometimes a lot of people who drink to take the edge off, drink to give them a little bit more courage. And that's a big deal. Drink to give themselves a little more courage to make decisions that they want to make it a little bit easier to, take the edge off, so to speak. Imagine you're the type of person that's wanted to end your life for a long time, but you just haven't had the nerve to make that push. And if the alcohol gives you that nerve, you know what I'm talking about? Let's continue. Number 17, war survivor from Chechnya, 94 to 96 war. I told a girl, maybe 17 years old, to run out from the apartment building because I was so sure it was going to collapse. It didn't collapse, and she ran out into a hail of gunfire and died. I was so scared that I stayed in the building, and it just never collapsed the entire time, so I left out the back. I often think about it. It was such a quick decision. She was right near the door. I was on my way out because the building felt like it was shaking, and I saw her and said, "Run out, the roof is going to fall." And she ran out in a hurry and got blown apart by gunfire, shrieking in pain until she was hit again and presumably died. I think if I didn't tell her that, obviously, I wish I didn't tell her that. It still sort of haunts me to this day, especially her screaming, but I also know that I made a decision in goodwill, trying to save her life. And to be fair, the building really felt like it was going to collapse, and everyone was running out, not just me. Anybody would have told her to run as well. Nobody knew they were opening fire on the building. I know it sounds lame, like a lame justification, but it's all I can think about to help ease my mind. Anybody would have done the same, I hope, at least. Number 16, guys. I put all my Facebook messages on mute because I was revising for exams. I unknowingly got a message from my brother's girlfriend asking me to check on him because she thought he was upset and they had just had an argument, but I didn't see it, obviously. My brother committed suicide that day in the house while I was revising because I didn't check on him since I didn't see the message. Only saw the message a couple of hours after my dad found him and after he had been pronounced dead. I could not help but feel responsible, like I could have done something. Hopefully all of these people on Reddit set this nigga straight. Like, what do you know about suicide? Nothing, you cuck. Because people who are actually gonna do it, they're gonna do it, dude. Ain't nobody walking in gonna stop them and be like, "Hey, but have you tried this banana? Oh my god, I never thought about it like that." Shut the hell up. They're just gonna make it seem like everything's fine, get your corny ass the hell out of their life, and figure out a way to do it when you're not around. Like, come on now. This isn't like your girlfriend's like, "I'm gonna do it." This isn't like your beta male trying to get attention from some chick, and then she's like, "Nah, I'm done with you, I'm bored," and he's like, "I'm fucking kill myself, man, I'm fucking kill myself." You're paying attention to me? Are you paying attention to me? Yeah, I'm gonna kill myself, bro. Stupid. It's real, baby. When people want to end their life, they're gonna do it, okay? You can't stand there and, restrain them, okay? People got choices to make, independent of you and what you want for them. Number 15, I was working in a nursing home as a volunteer. He was a painter. He told me to bring oil paints. That's kind of different, Kyle. Oil paints, canvas, and thinner. And he would paint something for me. The next week when I had to return, I was excited to see what he'd painted, but he was no longer there. The nurses told me that they came to pick him up. I think he drank the thinner at night. Man. Okay, man. Number 14. My mom is Thai and my dad is American, so I spend most of the year in the US and summers in Thailand. When I was 8, my family and my cousin's family were at a beach in Cha Am. My cousin's son, James, and I had been playing in the ocean for hours, and by this time we were both exhausted. Since we began playing, the waters got much more violent and large waves as thunderstorms were starting. As soon as my parents heard the lightning, they yelled for us to come back to the shore, and I just started swimming back without checking to see if James was following. When I walked up onto the sand, I looked back and I couldn't see him. We were much farther out than 2 8-year-olds should have been, and James was too tired to keep himself above the water. I'm not sure what I could have done once I realized I couldn't find him, but I can't stop thinking about it. And when I go back to the condo there, I can't bring myself to go back to the ocean. Well, don't blame yourself. It's a terrible situation. But it is up to older individuals at a beach to make sure that these kids aren't getting washed out to sea. Because kids suck. Remember that. Little people are completely freaking ridiculous. And one thing that you need to understand more than anything, and I see this every day, and again, I hate to keep going on about Overwatch, but just like seeing the general incompetence of people on a daily basis, like when you present them with just one task, and it's one thing when people are actively not trying to fulfill that task, like they're not trying or they don't care, but when you know that they're putting down that effort and they're still fundamentally incapable, and somehow they've made it through this much of their life up until this point and they still can't do it, it should let you know one thing. If these grown ass niggas can't get this shit done, what makes you think these little people are you know what I mean, are even in the ballpark, are even in the galaxy? You know, you have to hold these little kids' hands. I joke with Hannah all the time how everybody like has like a social, like they think it's like bad, the idea of a little kid on a leash. You know what I mean? Nah, son. These little kids are just like animals, and sometimes they're trying to actively kill themselves, and you know what I mean? They're just a danger. If you're not the type of person that can, you know, genuinely be on top of your kids, this is the ocean we talking about, motherfucker. They might as well be playing in the street. What you talking about? They were just out there and they got too far. You know what I'm talking about? I think any of the most typical parents worth their salt would be barking at their freaking children if they weren't in the water with them at 8 years old every second of every hour of every day. You know what I'm talking about? Your parents take you out to the beach, either they don't love you, you know what I mean, or they got their eye on your ass. You know what I'm talking about? It's gonna take some like UFO type shit to come falling out the sky, and most parents will still be like, yeah, that's cool, I'll see it on YouTube later, get your ass back in here. Mom, I'm only like 3 feet out. That's too far. You know what I'm talking about? Whatever, we're not here to judge parents. It's cute so that 8-year-olds can live with guilt. You know what I'm talking about? What the bing bong? Number 13? Number 13? It's a fucked up story. Now that's what I'm talking about. I was 14 years old. You like that? You like how? Okay, no, I'm kidding. I was 14 years old. It was a Sunday afternoon, somewhere in Europe. I was returning from a soccer match with my dad and 2 neighbors, friends of my dad. Going through my neighborhood, we met a new neighbor. They moved in a few weeks earlier, and he was returning from a hunting trip and was unloading a couple of rifles from his car. We said hello and chatted up for a bit. Curious, 14-year-old me couldn't take my eyes off the rifles. I had never before seen anything like that up close. He noticed and asked if I wanted to hold it. Of course I wanted to. My father and one of the others asked something along the lines of, "It isn't loaded, I presume," and the hunter said, "Of course it isn't," and handed me the gun. The moment I took it, it went off, hitting his 7-year-old daughter, who came running from the back side of the house, more or less in the middle of the chest. She was dead before the ambulance arrived, and she was their only child. Had celebrated her 7th birthday just days prior. The aftermath was a lot of police investigation and a generally bad time. It felt like I fell down a dark, empty hole and shut myself completely in. See what you're doing to your fucking kids? You see what you're doing to these little motherfuckers? Your dumbass got loaded rifles, don't know if they loaded, passing it off to kids. Nigga, that's step 1 in gun ownership. Don't let other people be touching your guns. 1, gun safety, motherfucker. 2, you know what I'm talking about? Like, Jesus Christ, it's one thing to hand it off to a man who we have already established are just as incapable of these little shits, but to hand it off to these little kids, dude, it's a loaded weapon. If you don't, you don't know. Don't say no when it is. Don't say no and mean yes. That's the biggest problem I got with anybody in the world, saying no and it's yes. It's actually yes, though. You're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. People get mad at other people because, oh, no means no. No don't always mean no. Remember that. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. No does not always mean no. And some people say no when they mean yes. That's the bottom line. Oh my God, this kid gonna have to live with the guilt. Legally, I was acquitted. Everyone agreed that the hunting neighbor had stated the gun wasn't loaded and that practically insisted on me holding it. The hunter himself got some kind of suspended jail sentence. Then years since has been bad for most involved. The year since. Sorry, I said then. The hunter was divorced from his wife shortly after. I heard he got some kind of depression and apparently had been in and out of the mental hospital. His wife is consumed by hatred and shows up to threaten me anytime she can find me. Hoes gonna be stupid as hell. That's a woman that's doing that. Remember yourself, okay? I know you guys don't think that it's as bad as I make it seem, but listen to this story and listen very closely. A woman that was married to a man that recklessly handed off a loaded rifle after confirming that the rifle wasn't loaded to a child that then struck another child in the chest is now the target of hatred from the wife because it's that little kid's fault or something, right? That's how dumb hoes are. And like I said, just because a lot of the hoes aren't like this doesn't mean that your experience is complete. Doesn't mean that you speak for the majority of women out there, because if there were 10 women on the planet, 9 of these women would be like that. And y'all don't know because you don't see, and maybe you're lucky with the company that you keep, but you are lucky and you do not speak for the majority. And I'm tired of a lot of these assholes in the comment section making it seem like I'm just some sort of bigot woman hater. A lot of these women are crazy, and it's because of the 2 categories that I established earlier when it pertains to a person on train tracks. You can act out of emotion and run down the train tracks and keep the train coming at your ass, or you can act in logic and step off the train tracks and let the train go by, son. Does this sound logical? Coming at a kid that shot another kid after being given a gun by an adult that he said wasn't loaded, that actually was. Well, that's what's up. His wife is consumed by hatred and shows up to threaten me anytime she can find me. I have moved repeatedly and even changed my name, but she still finds me regularly. This is a full-time job for this woman. She's a fucking monster. And if you've reached a point where you genuinely want to believe that there aren't women rolling out there like this with the capacity for this monstrous activity, then you are just as big a monster. You can't let ignorance consume you to the point where you're just like fucking waving a flag for a cause that is not real. You know what I mean? You can claim the earth is flat all you want, but it doesn't make it so. Am I saying that this applies to all women? Hell no. Am I saying that there aren't men out there just as monstrous? Hell no. I'm just saying, man, wait until you live some more. Wait until your experience is closer to complete. Then talk to me, because you're making yourself look like a fool. In the comment section below, tell me a story about how everybody you know is super nice. I have filed several court orders against her, and she is forbidden to come closer than a few kilometers from me. But that doesn't stop her. She has never hurt me physically though, but she usually says that she'll kill me one day. Okay. Record that bitch and get her some jail time. My father took this very hard and was in a dark place for years. He is now retired and spends most of his time doing various volunteer work for youth organizations and the like. I know it's his way of doing some kind of penance. My mother died a few years ago and was an amazing support for me, even though we never discussed the incident or the dead girl. I was never able to get back into any kind of meaningful education, barely managing to finish my country's version of high school. I now live and work with my brother, and I'm doing kind of okay. Thank God for people who got family to fall back on to like go into a family business or something. Because after some traumatic shit happens and you can't really jump through the hoops of society as easily as other people can because they haven't had real shit go down in their life, it just sucks. Like me, I'm kind of capable of swallowing all of the nasty and irrelevant shit that's happened to me. But the fact that there's like a stain on the record that everybody cares about disallows me to even get into conventional types of work. And that kind of sucks. The edit here says, thanks for the sympathy, thoughts, and warming words. Really means a lot. Regarding the trigger and why the gun went off, I honestly don't know. I probably put my finger on the trigger as I was handed the gun. Remember, I had never seen a live gun before. My only experience with guns was television. I haven't even been a gamer ever, only a soccer game at a friend's house. Well, he goes on to say the mother is arrested with regular and irregular intervals, and I know she was at least heavy fined a time ago. She is regarded as a low threat according to the police, no violent history ever, and I think she is considered mostly noise and no action. The kind of court orders is not very common in my country, and I think not very high priority with the police, to be frank. I am not afraid of this woman. She is mostly a very unpleasant reminder of my own guilt, and every time I see her, I get a very negative reaction that can last for a few days or weeks. Few of them hit me in so ghastly a capacity where all I can do is shake my head and wish that the world weren't like this, but this is what it is, you know? And this is like, okay, you guys have, if you've been around and listened to my list for a while, it's almost like an inside joke now how I can't stand when the lists have kid rape in them. As far as I'm concerned, this is right up there with one of those kid rape stories, because it's like mental rape, you know? A kid shouldn't have to live with the burden of taking another life, especially accidentally, especially when it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault, and they're living with guilt, dude. Guilt? You know what I'm talking about? Holy shit, guilt for a little kid, dude? Fundamentally fucking this kid's shit right up, fam. Oh my God. And to have a mom acting like this, what the hell? Number 12, when I was a little kid, I was in the mall with my mom and my grandma. I forgot what I was angry about, but I was throwing a temper tantrum and ran away. My grandmother took a really bad fall down a flight of stairs because my mom didn't speak English that well. It took her a while to find me. Wait. I forget what I was angry about, and I was throwing a temper tantrum and ran away. My grandma took a really bad fall down a flight of stairs, and because my mom didn't speak English that well, it took her a while to find me to get her mom to the hospital. My grandma passed away from that injury. Oh, so he's a little kid and he feels the guilt of like, maybe if he were closer and then we didn't have to spend this time running around chasing a kid, we could have saved the mom. That sucks. That sucks. Number 11. Deployed in Afghanistan, urban area. I got into programming to kill time. I had an Arduino set complete with everything I would need to make tons of little gadgets. Got pretty good at it too. Going to school for it when I get out. When it came time to go home, I didn't have room to take the kit with me, so I threw it out. Keep in mind, locals work on this base, and in my time there, at least 3 had been kicked out for ties with the Taliban. Within an hour of tossing the kit, it had been taken. Didn't think anything of it. Probably some other soldier thought it was cool and took it. Big base, anything could happen. About 3 weeks after we left, an IED went off outside the gate. No NATO casualties, but about 20 civilians died in the blast. 20. EOD reports that it was a strangely sophisticated bomb. They used my kit. My negligence gave them the means to kill 20 innocent people. I've never told anyone in the world about this, and it haunts me to this day. You don't have a guarantee, you're right. OP says, hey, it might not have been your kit that was used, even if it was. You had no way of knowing what would happen. evil exists in the world, guys, sometimes. And whether or not, like, the keys that they find to put in the ignition of the car belong to you, sometime they'll make a fit. These days, people can 3D print a key to fit that fucking lock, you feel me? You can't stop the inevitable, and this applies to the suicide as well. Number 10, sorry, my nose. I'm sorry, give me a second. Number 10, 7-ish a.m. on a Sunday morning. I'm headed to work in a small town at the age of 15 or 16. At the age of 15 or 16. Come over a crest on a hill and have no time to react. T-bone someone making an illegal U-turn in a driveway. All I remember is veering off to the right and damaging someone's stone wall after the hit. Crawling out of the wreckage, out of breath, and stumbling to see if the other person was okay. The vehicle spun multiple times and landed in a ditch facing away. But driver's side visible from where I originally was. The driver wasn't there. Move along the vehicle and check the other side. Driver is hanging out of the passenger side window with a steady stream of blood from their skull. Bottom line for me is that I ask and implore everyone, please use your seatbelt. Somebody else said, and don't make illegal U-turns like a dumbass. Yep. Well, it always seems so simple, you know, hindsight is 20/20, guys. But I'll tell you something right now. Here are the top rules of the road as far as I'm concerned, guys. Use your motherfucking indicator, okay? Why don't you start doing that, you cuck, you know? As crazy as it sounds, like you would think that I would immediately say wear your seatbelt. Yeah, wear your seatbelt. I guess it's like it goes without saying, but use your fucking indicator, okay? When the light go green, be real careful, nigga. You know what I'm talking about? I'm one of these, like, I'm not a grandpa driver. I'm not a hesitant man. I'm not aggressive or anything. But when that light go green, you should feel how skeptic I am on the inside. I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that green light. Let me look. Hold on now. You know what I mean? Red light don't mean shit to people. Be careful on these streets. That's your life you're dealing with. You only got one of these. Life is one of those asshole video games where everything just sucks. And then if you die, you still don't get a life. None of y'all got a one up. That's how I know, you know. You silly poor humans. Number 9, I was driving from a friend's house last November on a road I've driven on a million times. I knew one area was particularly dark at night because the city hadn't replaced the streetlights in over a decade. The dark area also crests a hill in a residential area between the crosswalks that are far apart, so people cross the road at the top of this hill. Knowing this, I still never saw him coming. There was a huge thud and my window was cracked all the way across. I turned around and saw him laying motionless on the sidewalk. It was late and no one else was there, so it was just me parked on the side street and his body. I checked his pulse while I was on the phone with 911, but couldn't feel anything because I was shaking so badly. This was maybe a quarter mile from the hospital, so paramedics were there before I ever realized what happened. They put him on a stretcher with this strange device that I found out later was automatically to compress his chest. The cops showed up and I finally saw my car with a flashlight. There was a large chunk of flesh and blood caught on the side of the car. I passed my sobriety test and they took me home. He lived for 3 days before dying due to complications of the accident. You battered this motherfucker up on the inside. You hit by a fucking vehicle, a ton vehicle. Shit. He was never conscious during the time. I found out through a friend of mine who's the editor at a local paper that the police department were still considering charges. Also, how I found out that he died. I was obviously a mess about the accident, but also the possibility of involuntary manslaughter. After the officer called me to tell me officially that he died, I consulted a lawyer and was basically told not to talk to the police again and to let them conduct their investigation. 2 grueling weeks later, I got a phone call at midnight from the officer who gave me my sobriety test. He worked 3rd shift. He told me that the guy was incredibly intoxicated and basically stepped into oncoming traffic without paying attention. With that info, I wasn't being charged and I could go pick my car back up. The relief I felt was indescribable, but also terrible that I could feel so great in a situation where someone died. What made that feeling worse was the officer told me the family of the guy were super concerned with how I was doing and that they wanted to tell me they didn't blame me. He was 24, had just graduated college, and it was his last night in town before going back to his hometown. I go to his Facebook page every once in a while just so I don't forget what he looked like. Tell me that's not chilling, dude. Tell me that's not chilling. We don't know enough, so we can't come to any conclusions. The dude was drunk. Maybe he was just having a good time. We don't want to assume that he was suicidal and he walked out into traffic. You know, he probably didn't. We can't. We don't have enough information here. But somebody responds, my sister chose to end her life by walking into traffic. That's a real female way to end your life, isn't it? Just rude. You're gonna involve somebody else. Imagine if you cause a pileup and other people gotta die. Imagine if it's just one person and then that person dies. You know what I mean? Even if they don't die, you gotta have them living with the guilt of the fact that they ran into a motherfucker, conduct a police investigation, maybe they go to jail because you were an asshole. Guys, think about this. When you're killing yourself, don't ruin somebody else's life. Go out with a bang, but a personal bang. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't need to be a bang that involves other people. Think, guys, think. Holy shit. Imagine if you just get yourself hit and this person doesn't go to jail and they get acquitted of all charges, but still have to live with the guilt of knowing that they hit a person with their freaking car and cost them their life, and not knowing that this was like deliberately what you wanted to do. And maybe you could at least make it clear. Wear a shirt that's like, I want to kill myself and I want you to be the one to hit me in your car. So when that happens, they can be like, you fucking asshole. You know what I mean? Write a letter, put it on social media, maybe even live stream it. Getting hit by a car today. You know what I mean? Make it something that the cops can't even refute in court. Come on. My sister chose to end her lone life by walking into traffic, and in some ways, I feel worse for the people that hit her. She made a horrifying choice that I struggle to understand, but she made that choice. The people who hit her, unfortunately, didn't get to decide whether or not they wanted to be part of her tragedy, and I feel terrible for them. I will never be able to apologize to or comfort those people. I would really like to, so allow me to use this anonymous posting to kind of do so. The other person made the mistake, not you. And while I expect you'll be haunted by it because it was horrifying, please understand that the family member's grief towards you is heartfelt, albeit maybe undesired on your part. The world is a terrible place, and I hope that these lists don't serve to make you hate humanity more. I need more feel-good lists, but I'm Kyle. I'm not about feel-good lists, you know what I mean? I'll read more. It's just, they get on my nerves sometimes, and they probably do the best too. I remember reading this one about jokes and bullshit like this. Sorry, my phone is freaking out. I'm sorry. As we continue, guys, on the list of 30 chilling deaths people directly caused, we arrive at number 8. Almost there. Was skiing with a friend when I was still living in Colorado. We were going a good speed and enjoying the mountain. When we came back onto the main trail, he was still going really fast. I yelled at him to slow down, and an elderly lady ended up merging at the same time as he looked back at me. My buddy is a good-sized guy and ended up colliding with this old woman. The ski patrol ended up grabbing her from the mountain, and she was clearly in a lot of pain. She ended up dying from her injuries a few days later. After their investigation, my buddy and the woman were both in the wrong. He had to pay some fines, but he never got any kind of lawsuit. Far be it from us to tell old people to live how they're going to live their life. Perhaps they have earned, how they want to do things and what the hell they going to do. But I like to think if you couldn't survive like just falling down in a really messed up way, what are you doing out there? Somebody asks, how'd your buddy feel about it? They respond, like shit. He has family and kids, just like she did. He wrote a note to her family apologizing, but they never responded. He wasn't drunk, and he is kind of a goofy guy. In my honest opinion, it could have been avoided. He could have been going slower, but she did not look up for anyone coming her way. I've seen people on the mountain collide before. It looked like any of the other times. Yep, it happens. It happens. Oh, people out there on the mountain. Go tell it on the mountain, colliding with people and dying from injuries. That's not funny. You're an asshole. Who's getting a go tell it on the mountain joke? You know what I mean? If that's what you call like humor, that's what you call a joke, or rewording. So bullshit song. Number 7, man. I'm not sure if this counts. The Count is a character on Sesame Street, guys. Keep it together, Kyle. I'm not sure if this counts, but I want to get it. Blah. 1. Okay, no. Number 7. I'm not sure if this counts, but I want to get it off my chest after reading these. Can you imagine if this was like somebody's first list and they were just like, whoa, wait a minute. Is this guy okay? My friend was a well-known and liked guy, very social. Did drama, football, and baseball in high school. Some of the best moments of my life were with him. One day he just stopped coming around. He would read my messages but not reply. He ignored anyone else. It was so bizarre. One day he came to my house and it was like the good old days. He said that he got into target shooting, but his gun blew up because he fired a bullet that had been in the washing machine. He had some powder burns on his hands. He asked to borrow one of mine, and I said yes. 2 days later, he shot himself with it. I've hated myself since. Most of our mutual friends hate me, his family hates me, and I was barred from his funeral. I feel so bad that I didn't see the signs. I miss you, Tom. I wish I could have helped you like you did me. Oh, yeah. I guess handing off a gun is just something that's like a no-no. So I want to say both parties are significantly in the wrong. But, guys, you can't just blame this guy because he got manipulated and straight conned into giving him his weapon. You know what I'm talking about? People don't know what people got going on. You know what I'm talking about? Parents don't know what kids got going on. Real talk. So he was going to find a way to kill himself one way or another. And you can't just go around passing blame and judgment on people that you don't know. Everybody want to judge, and judging is fun when it's like gossipy and I guess behind people's back and it's just words and it really doesn't hurt anybody. But again, some people are hurt by words, man. Some people going to jump out of their car and throw up their hands because of words. You don't talk to me like that. And then if you punch the guy and he hits the curb, you're going to live with the guilt, boo, boo, boo. So everybody, you really need to watch the way that you are because your actions cast ripples that you can't process. They'll continue to cast those ripples past you being alive. Those ripples will turn to waves and crash, and people will get caught in that current and swept out because the parents ain't watching them. Do you get what I'm saying here? It's terrible, really. Number 7. Let's get through this. Former paramedic here. We tend to have a fair share of what we ourselves consider deaths that we are responsible for. You don't always interpret all of the situations right. There are days your hands are a tiny bit shaky and you miss a vein or a trachea, etc. But I will always remember the first one. As a fresh paramedic, a 65-year-old male with chest pain just had his birthday yesterday. Now, presents with chest pain. For this, we give nitroglycerin as a spray. Works well, but has a downside. It reacts massively and violently with Viagra. Oh God. which has a brand new drug on the market back then, which was a brand new drug. I asked the patient if he took any medication. He says no. Now, the seasoned paramedics already know where this is heading. I, of course, forgot to ask the wife to leave the room again and ask again because he visited a hooker for his birthday. Tell the truth, you know? If there's one scenario you need to tell the truth in, it's to medical professionals. That's the only place, guys. Lie your asses off and live your fucking crazy life. Lie your asses off, but tell these medical niggas that went to school for years for this shit the truth. That's all I'm gonna say. Seems like I'm always ranting. Seems like I'm always trying to teach a lesson, when in reality, I'm preaching to the choir. If you're listening to these lists, you're probably level-headed and you're logical as a dude or a woman, and everything's making sense. You know what I mean? People listening to this probably have their feet on the ground, but maybe just maybe there's like 3 or 4 kids that woke up in the middle of this list because their YouTube playlist ran on after some creepy stories or some shit, and you're in here. Dude, tell doctors and shit the truth, okay? Because it can cost you your life. Some shit don't work well together, and that's what happened here. He crashed half a minute after I gave him the nitroglycerin, and despite all efforts, he died on the scene. Now, I wanted to see a joke here, but it doesn't look like it's that kind of threat. This may be tagged as serious as well. So let's get out of here, guys. Number 5, when I was 4 and visiting Japan, I opened the back door of my car in Japan to the sidewalk, but a motorcycle driving in that space between the curb and the road slammed into it. Blood everywhere. I don't remember the exact aftermath since I was so young, but everybody was screaming, and I just sat there not understanding exactly what was happening until my mom ran off the scene and into the building in tears. Thanks for the kind words, everybody. He was a little 4-year-old and he opened a door and a bike dude just fucking plowed into that shit. I mean, yeah, it's not your fault in the slightest. You're just a 4-year-old kid, but fuck me. Oh boy. I guess this is why we have child locks on doors? I don't know. Somebody else says, number 4, when I was 4 years old. It's always kind of creepy when these are right next to each other and they're the same age. There were 2 12-year-old stories and now there's 2 4-year-old stories. When I was 4 years old, my mother was roughly 3 to 4 months pregnant. Once I was supposedly crying and throwing a tantrum over a toy or something, my mother tried to comfort me by cradling me in her arms to take me to my room that was upstairs, but I cried and kicked so much that she lost her balance and fell down the stairs. I was unhurt, and mother recovered without any lasting injuries, but my sibling died. I've heard a story exactly like this, except the kid jumped on the mom's stomach. Somebody asked, do you remember this or did your parents tell you? And somebody else says, I actually learned this from my grandmother when I was 13. You little shit. You little shit. How do you communicate to a kid that doesn't understand life and death, that there's a life growing inside, and this is sacred? Mommy's belly right now is sacred, just like mommy's life itself, dude. How do you explain this concept of death to a kid? You can die. Don't play in the street. Look both ways. Be very careful. You know what I mean? You can't lose your balance. Make sure you don't fall and hit your head. Make sure people don't hit you in the head. You know what I'm talking about? Oh boy. Number 3. When I was 18, I was working the night shift in a nursing home as an aide. Part of my job was to turn the paralyzed patients every 2 hours to make sure they didn't get bed sores, etc. This one particular resident had late-stage Parkinson's disease, and her muscles and joints were stiff and brittle, and she was catatonic. As I was flipping her from one side to another, I applied light pressure to her leg to move her back a bit, and this snapped her femur. Given her age and health, the doctor decided that surgery was dangerous, and she would have to heal it on its own, if at all. Because of this, we could no longer flip her, which resulted in bed sores. She eventually went septic from those bed sores and died of septic shock. I always felt so bad about that. Gave me chills. This is one of them. Holy crap. Somebody says we can put pets to sleep when they are in irredeemable pain or have no hope of recovering. It's so insanely cruel that we can't offer the same thing to people. Instead, this poor woman just laid in bed broken until she died. How horrible. Oh boy. Somebody else replies, that seems like it should have definitely been a 2-person job, at least. And somebody else says it should have been, but in most cases, staff to aid ratio is ridiculous. Imagine being left to care for 33 people. That's what our third shift does. Anywhere from 25 to 33 people, most of them total care, several are barbaric. What? Let's try this again. That's what our third shift does. Anywhere from 25 to 33 people, most of them total care, several are bariatric residents. CNAs are not valued enough for what they do. Horrifying me now, man. Let's get out of here. We're at number 2. When I was younger, playing Xbox while at my grandma's house, I had left the room to go to the bathroom, leaving the wired controller on the floor. I suddenly hear a thud and decided to finish my business before seeing where it came from. Whilst cleaning up, I heard a scream from my grandma and was told to stay in the bathroom. And so I did. Found out that my grandfather had accidentally stood on my controller and fell over the wire, cracking his skull open on the table, and was announced dead at the scene when the ambulance arrived. I am now extra cautious with where I leave items, encouraging my younger brother and sister to clear up their mess once they're done. That sucks. Somebody responds, as part of my job, I work with seniors to improve their reflexes and balance. These are things that degrade with age. In most demographics, falls kill more older adults than anything other than heart disease and cancer. People with good balance and quick reflexes rarely seriously injure themselves from a fall. Your grandfather, in his younger years, could have recovered from this misstep, or could have gotten his arm out in front of him in time. Frailty, decline, and bad luck killed your grandfather, not you. It could have been a crack in a sidewalk. For anyone reading that, it's not hyperbole. I recently started work for my county's public works department, who maintain, among other things, the sidewalks. I had a project where I had to gather information about all the outstanding work orders from the sidewalk repair. While skimming through some of them, the work orders, I noticed one has almost a dozen pictures attached. Curious, I clicked them. The first few were normal pictures of cracked sidewalk. The rest were of elderly 80-plus women getting put on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance. The crack in the sidewalk wasn't anything most people would notice. You know, they step on a crack, they break themselves back. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Number 1 on the list of 30 chilling deaths people directly caused. This one was a longer one than I intended. Goes as follows. I dropped my sister's newborn while having a seizure from my epilepsy. Oh my God. He hit the ground and didn't make it. I've since distanced myself from her and my family because it has been made clear I am no longer welcome to see any of them. That's pretty chilling, dude. I dropped my sister's newborn while having a seizure from my epilepsy. Now, you got a family member that's epileptic. They have seizures. You got a baby. It's not a baby that's been around the block and could take a hit. An 8-year-old fall over, he could take a hit. You know what I'm talking about? Get your dumb ass up and dust that shit off. This is a newborn. You have a family member that's an epileptic. This isn't something that you don't know. This should be something you know. This is a family member. You have a family member that's epileptic. You just letting that motherfucker hold a baby? Staying up with the help, baby, not over a bed, you know what I mean? Not like with somebody else bracing you just to make sure. You're holding someone's newborn baby. This is just these stories crazy. These stories crazy. What do the comments say? Holy shit, that's terrible for everyone involved. Take this as you wish. And it's a picture. 16-year-old Tesla owner dropped their sister's baby after having an epileptic fit, consequently killed the baby. Okay, let's read this. Why is everything being deleted? No. It's been hidden. It says it's unfortunate that odds are this never really happened. That is, unless you believe a 16-year-old who owns a Tesla and lives in both Nebraska and Sweden. What grade where will you be studying? I will be in year 10. I haven't been assigned a host family yet, so I'm unsure of where I will be studying. So high school, if you turn 18, will you be able to go out and drink with your friends? I'm rather introverted and quiet. Please don't. I'm just a proud Tesla owner and I like the Tesla company. Why can't you just leave it alone? Wait a bing bong. This guy just took everybody for a ride out here. This guy just took everybody for a ride in this bitch. How can he get away with that? Did this guy just take everybody for a ride? Reddit is just a roller coaster. You can't get enough sometimes, guys. Oh, guys, love you. It's been a while. I wanted to record too, but I am just not gonna have time. So I'll see what I can do later today. I need to figure out a little bit more money because I want some Chinese, which is ridiculous. I also should be streaming more. It just gets nuts. And I don't know where this cough is coming from, but I did just kind of wake up and decide to record a list. So guys, I'll see you soon. I love you. Take it easy, stay out of trouble. I'm here if you need me. Later.